Caused the scrapping and dissolution of the armed squad, leading to the establishment of SWAT. Nigerians heaved a sigh of relief, hoping that would bring to an end police brutality in the country. Only a few years later, the trend seems crippling back, with more Nigerians facing dehumanizing conditions in the hands of these supposedly trained police personnel. The continued molestation of citizens by the police in many states is only a confirmation that men of the force may have not learned any lessons from the Hensas saga. Nigerians have rated the police low over the resurgence of human rights abuses. Many wonder if the force have forgotten how remorseful they were after the Hensas debacle and the training they received for a positive change. There is concern that police brutality is causing mental imbalance among many Nigerians, hence the need for more training for the police.
And I want to advocate that police authorities should engage in serious training of police officers and personnel. Serious training. They should invest heavily in it because our police need to be trained and retrained so that their nature can be transformed to be the kind of police that we need in a democracy.
But the most important thing of any institution of government is training, orientation of the job, because most of these police personnel are young school leavers. Yes, the people that left a secondary school with their school leaving certificates, their SSCs, some are diploma holders. So you will not compare their level of orientation with those that graduate with masters, with PhD. So all we are saying is that let the government constitute a training program, a continuous training program for the police.
While some blame the police for allegedly not respecting the fundamental human rights of the citizenry, others frown at the non-professionalism of the personnel when carrying out their duties. But the police is not admitting total complacency. They insist that some deviant Nigerians are responsible for the ill treatment they get from its personnel. According to the force public relations officer Muyiwa Dejobi, many Nigerians claim unnecessary rights even when they are wrong. A trend that said compels police personnel to overreact in some cases.
The public, because almost 80% of them is not aware of what the law says, ignorant of provisions of the law. If I want to effect an arrest, you have seen cases in the video and social media. If I want to effect an arrest, by the time I come to you as a policeman, by the time I identify you myself as a policeman, and I say you're under arrest, and every engineer will be telling you, where is your warrant of arrest? He has forgotten there is no cases you demand for warrant of arrest, because he doesn't know. At that point in time, he has a wrong perception that policeman has come to do illegal duty or is doing a wrong thing, whereas the policeman is doing the right thing.
He wants Nigerians to be acquainted with laws, especially those having to do with human rights, to avoid unnecessary harassment from a few ambitious police personnel.
Last week, the president assented to many bills. They are now acts. And Nigerians are aware of this. We have more than 300 laws, acts, provisions of the law. The Nigerians are not even aware they exist at all, let alone don't know what the content is. It's a big problem. And that's why you see that all the time we've been having issues with law enforcement, because the populace don't know what the law is saying. So they think whatever you do, whether you are right or not, objective or not, they say you are wrong. And it's a big problem. So we should be able to draw the line and demarcate the line at what point in time that we want to say is actually policemen aligned with protection of human rights or fundamental human rights.
It was not only condemnation, however, as some Nigerians still see some kind of improvement in the police operations, especially after the Hensas saga. To some, the spate of brutality had reduced, though there are still some bad eggs among the police personnel who give the force a bad name. Such people, they say, must be made to face the law when indicted. In all, they want the government to consider more training and sensitization methods to help change the mode of the police operations.
whenever they want to work. You know, it is determined like when something happened to the people on top, you see them coming into action. You see them demonstrating what they have learned, the training they have gotten, like in the issue of kidnapping, in the issue of getting lost items and that. You see them coming up and within a period of time they got it. But if you come to the downtrodden, the masses, you see that they will take the lackadaisical attitude.
They try to have the weak points. Many police are today are not, many of them are not police. Some people are police, they have been dismissed. Some people are police, they are still wearing their uniform. They are dismissed from the police, they are still wearing the uniform. We have many fake police all over the country, many fake police. I can stand anywhere and say it.
Depend on what you mean by depend on your definition of human rights. Sometimes, before you can sell human rights, well, we can say with the respect of human rights, they can also say they no respect human rights to some extent. And as you can see, there's a video trending online that's a police brutality. The question is that everybody is condemning police for that particular action. But if we ask what that individual did that leads to that, no, nobody will ask question.
Analysts believe there is need for mutual understanding between members of the public and the police as they carry out their assignment of policing the society. After all, the police is your friend.
This is good to have you back. That line, after all, the police is your friend. Well, that might be very hard for a lot of people to believe. And I guess it's time for me to introduce my guest in the studio. I have with me Emmanuel Ikonle. He is the National Coordinator Network on Police Reform in Nigeria, NOPRE. Many thanks for being with us at Firecrackers today.
Thank you for the opportunity. So,
moving right into the topic for today, where we have some police officers that were dismissed because of high-handedness. How do you take that news? Because something like this is good news to Nigerians that, oh, maybe the police now are being accountable. But from your own hand, how do you view the news?
The news for us that have been into the policing sector for some time, it's a welcome development. Because for the past 8 to 10 years, there have really been little or no accountability. So people out there or policing of agents generally go about carrying out their duties how they want, not according to the dictates or guidelines of the law or the Police Act of 2020 as it is now being enacted. So most times they fault and they fail to respect the rights of citizens. They fail into also working according to the guidelines on how the ethics associated with their works. So you can go into the field, you can just be attached to anybody, and in the field you can shoot, and a lot of persons have died because of this idea of stray bullet over the time. And if citizens continue to die and nothing is being done, let's not forget that 3/4 of all the cases that have been reported before now on citizens that have been killed because of stray bullets, none or nothing has been done to actually console the family or compensate to the families. Most of these cases will come online, and after some time, it will vanish into thin air. It has been there for some time. The last one that happened recently on Christmas Day, that the pregnant lawyer was killed. What has actually happened till now? We are still on the process. So if officers like this that are failing to work according to their guidelines are not being brought to book, it becomes a trend, and with trend, it will be hard to quench when you have such group of persons making that a normal situation in an abnormal, when it's abnormal in itself. So for us, it's actually a step in the right direction, and there's need to actually uproot out the wrong, the officers that are acting not in good faith, and then replace them. A lot of persons are looking for good jobs. A lot of young persons want to work in the police. A lot of young persons love the work. Yes, they have not been impressed by the conduct of many officers that are failing in carrying out their mandates, but if they are given this opportunity, they will do better. So those ones that don't want to work, instead they want to make the police a criminal society, they should be uprooted and disciplined.
Okay.
Yeah.
And looking at the public opinion from the reports that we did here in Galaxy TV, it seems people are torn from their thought on how they would evaluate the performances of the police since NSAS happened. That was 2020 and up to now. Some are for the fact that it has not really improved. Maybe during the first year, because they knew the eyes was on them, they reduced some of their violent tendencies. But after that, it seems to have gone back up. Why some are saying that since NSAS, the attitude of police in Nigeria has been better. From your own perspective, which would you say is?
From my own perspective, I will actually feel we are not there yet. After NSAS, there were a lot of things that were being advocated for. We know before now that there have been several gaps and several loopholes that need to be covered, or be certain things that need to be put in place to enable the police work better, and for police officers also to be able to carry out their mandates better. But over time, we were lucky enough that after then we had a new police act being signed finally. We had some persons being released from the police stations, protesters. But still till date, there are still some protesters that are still in the police cells. We still have people that have been also arrested for doing no wrong. Even in Lagos, there have been people that there have still raids that are being carried out daily by police officers, and these persons are remanded because they are having mobile courts these days. If they will arrest you in the night, and in the morning there will be a mobile court. You don't pay some amount of money, 50,000 or thereabout, they will remand you. So where is the rights being respected? You still have during election a lot of persons coming out, touts, thugs, coming out to air that they are going to discipline or do certain things, and they actually carried out what they promised to do, oppressing citizens, and they were not brought to book. You still have a lot of persons and still commissioners of police trying to ban protests, like in Nasarawa. Who gave you the permission to do that? You don't even have the powers. If the Constitution is giving everybody the freedom or right to expression, freedom of expression, who are you? You are being employed and you are being paid for the taxes, from people's taxes. That is what you are being paid to work to serve the people. And when the wrong thing is being done, you even prevent them from even crying out for foul play. I think, so to a large extent, I think we are not there yet. And if you also have a president or a government or state government or leaders who lack the political will to think about what is best for these citizens, this will continue to reoccur. And the current government have been very poor on it. There have been series of actions that even the current president have done. When you have a new police act and then you don't follow the process of even electing a new IG, processes of appointments, you just sit wherever and then appoint whoever. And that has become a trend over time. Those persons that unlawfully were being arrested during the NSAS, some were injured till date. They have not gotten themselves. Have the government maybe sat down and say, okay, let's have free centers. Some of these persons were shot. They still have bullet wounds in them. Let us treat them, right, for free, and then see how we can compensate them. There are also some persons that have been disabled for a long period of time now because of this issue of stray bullet, or because of 100 naira, 50 naira. A lot of citizens have died, and these persons have not been brought to book till date. So the government of the day has played a lot of lip service, but we're hoping that with the election, maybe the incoming government, state governments, and president will actually be more proactive in trying to see that rights become a reality, respect of rights becomes a reality, and is protected in our country.
And talking about the issue of stray bullets, we've been seeing cases, like for this month, a couple of cases have been recorded of some trigger-happy policemen shooting people, and then the state commissioner of police would promise them that they will do investigation. It's always been promises upon promises, and then perhaps they will tell them, like the one that happened recently, I think in Delta State, they promised them that after a week they would show that they would have the results of the investigation. But a week passed, but then nothing came up. And this is putting people, especially for families who have lost who have lost their loved ones, who have lost a member of their family. It's putting them in grave because nothing is done. So in cases like that, what advice would you give? Because what is the due process to follow in making sure that even after maybe whoever is in charge in the state promises that investigation will be carried out to bring these perpetrators, these bad eggs among the police officers, if they've promised that and then they did not follow up on the promise, what should be the next step?
There is a lot that can be done, and for police in Nigeria, there has an internal complaint mechanism to actually address issues of complaints against the police, and have an external oversight body like the Police Service Commission to address these concerns. I think first and primarily, a lot has to do with the political will and the type and quality of leaders or leadership heading those particular units, because it's very important that those units are being headed by people that will actually be able to do the jobs. And currently we have retired IG Solomon Arase heading the PSC, and we'll believe with his wealth of experience he'll be able to bring it to bear on trying to rework the PSC to reflect the current reality, and also for them to be able to carry out their mandates of recruitment, discipline, promotion, and even dismissal of erring officers. If they can be able to do this, to a large extent, it will reduce complaints, because most times people don't trust the police and they don't even believe in that adage or slogan that the police is your friend because of lack of accountability. So if erring officers know fully well that if they violate or fail to respect rights, or they go against their mandate, they'll be punished and disciplined, it will help them also to work in line with what is expected of them. But when constantly, when they abuse these rights of persons, and what the police most times do is to transfer them from one state to the other, as they have been doing severally, and you keep hearing we arrested this person and is in detention. We are not. Then after years, some years will pass, you never hear about the stories again, because for some persons, abuse of human rights, it's a daily occurrence, right? Every day another case, a fresh case happens today. People rush for it. Before you be able to follow up this one, a new one comes and a new one comes, and it's like every day it's become like a normal thing. But meanwhile, it's abnormal. So for us, working with with No Print Foundation, for us it's more like, instead of trying to attend to one cases, yes, why the government tried to do that or the police tried to do that, PSC, National Human Rights, work with No Print, right? Let's have a yearly public tribunal as we have been doing. So when these cases that the government or the police will fail to address them, we'll document these cases yearly, daily, and then at the end we'll have a public tribunal by the end of the year. So all these cases that have been neglected, all of them we bring to the fore and be shared with the PSC or the CRU, and they'll within themselves carry out these investigations, and those victims or survivors of these abuses will appear at the tribunal. At the end of the day, we know that yes, these cases were omitted, but this is a second chance for it to be addressed. When that doesn't happen, it means either the oversight agencies are not carrying out their job, because normally they should be able to address it. But when you come to the level of they failing, from the level of the CSOs, to still push them at the level of public tribunal to carry out. And these cases that will be reported to us will constantly keep it up. At the end of the day, we'll put it in the report and we'll share it. So if the following year we will have to give accountability, yes, at the public tribunal there were 20 cases. Out of these 20, 5 was solved, 10 was not solved. Why? Because the PSC failed to do his job, because the CRE didn't follow up, because the IG had his own interest in this particular case and never wanted it to work. We'll bring it up like that. And we'll actually put this in the media. So maybe if they fail to do what is right, there will be another opportunity at the public tribunal. If at that level they still, because of their own personal failures or personal inadequacies, then it means we'll have to escalate it again. So citizens will also be aware that these people you have elected or these persons that they have appointed to work for us, they are not good enough. And in that case, they'll be replaced.
And you're talking about human rights abuses, because according to the first public relation officer, he said one of the reasons that might lead to some police violating the human rights of some citizens is when some citizens are perhaps overstating their rights, not really listening to the policemen, especially in times where they've been in the wrong. But you know, this brings to question what should be the right relationship between the police and the citizens, because sometimes it's always coming from the position of the oppressor and the oppressed, and whoever does not want to be the oppressor in this case, any form of bravery the person tries to show is being seen as maybe rudeness or not knowing their place. So if this is coming from the first public relation officer, it makes one wonder then, how should the right attitude now of the citizens be when they have an encounter with policemen?
When you listen to most public relations officers of the Nigerian police force talk, you see that most of them try to defend the police. They fail to realize that they are not there to work to please the IG. They are there to work for Nigeria or to work for Nigerians. That is why they are there. Their loyalty is not to the IG. Their loyalty is to Nigeria, because Nigeria is the one that employed them. Nigeria is the one that is paying them. And their duty is very essential for the growth and good of Nigeria, be it in investments, be it in carrying out our daily activities. Security, it's very essential. So, but whenever you listen to a lot of them talk, you look at the sentiments there. And most times, this grows out of the perception that we are not being loved, we are not being liked. But it's a normal, yes, or respected. But it should be a normal thing that when citizens don't see you doing what they expect of you, knowing fully well that they are being taxed daily to pay you, the budget is being slashed to a particular is to address or to actually support this work. And then at the end of the day, they are not seeing the work because people are killed daily. In Benue, how many weeks, some time back, about 46 persons died.
Just last week.
Yes. So that is the work of who? Security agencies, right? They are being paid to do this. They are being provided with the facilities to do this. But that has happened. People have lost their life. These have been people that have been paying tax. And this tax accumulates to become the budget, right? So if people are giving money for you to provide a particular service and you are failing to do it, and you still don't want them to talk because you are a police officer, your work is to serve. You are not supposed to be a lord because you have a gun. You are supposed to defend the common man against people that are coming to fight them. So when instead they see you that they are paying to defend them, fighting them back, it's a normal thing that every citizen won't be happy. But it's unfortunate that most of these police officers, instead of working to actually bridge the gap between citizens and the police, they instead expand the gap. Because when the citizen come to complain about an issue about your fellow colleagues failing to carry out their mandate, and your own work is like, it's because of your fault. It's your fault. You shouldn't talk. And because the police is talking to you, you shouldn't talk. Even the police slaps you, you should just keep quiet. Then the common man will be like, this is wrong. It shouldn't be. Who taught you this? Right? So that is why a lot of persons, like the other persons, I think Comrade Ambassador Onoja was actually reminding people the constant need for training and retraining of officers. I've constantly said that the duration of training actually limits the quality of what they can learn. And that is why there's always like training, and then constantly there should be consistent training and retraining continuously for them. But most times, even if they are being trained, you still have their senior colleagues still insisting on a particular way of policing, even if it's right or wrong. But meanwhile, there have been innovations in the Police Act that actually protects even the rights of citizens or officers that are actually acting in good faith in such a way that If a senior colleague instructs you to go and torture somebody, and you know it contravenes the Anti-Torture Act, and you refuses, if the person do anything, you can report. But the issue has always been also that there have been issues of favoritism even within and there are certain persons, just like we continue to complain of godfatherism, even in the Nigerian police force. These are some of the issues. So human rights is something that shouldn't be played with, and unfortunately we don't have public relations officers that are good enough for the work. And most times you see it when they speak, you see the sentiments there, and this limits the people accepting the work they do. Even when they work well, people are not comfortable, even when they are being also affected. Because from the PRO of Benue State, Sewese,
Yes,
what he said about a police officer was also confirmed dead among the persons reported. How many persons will come out also to complain that an officer was also killed? Because most of them feel, okay, since the police tormented me, shot me, and I couldn't defend myself, okay, since one has died, that should be a consolation for me, you know. And this keep occurring every day. In Lagos here, sometime last 2021 or thereabouts, a young man was going out and then was shot. Not him, because the police officer stopped him to collect 100 naira. He said he doesn't have, and they were like, go. The next thing, the wife shouted in the car. 2 bullets from back penetrated the woman in Lagos, right? And this case has been reported, and the IJ actually forwarded this to the X squad in Lagos here. But so far, nothing has been done yet. But officers were on the road collecting money, and because of this is somebody's wife, right? And on that, the same day, this young man was here arrested and taken to the police station. It was somebody that helped the wife to take the wife to the hospital. Now, even for justice to even be done, you start hearing process, send a letter, drop the petition, meet us at this point, we'll go to the venue and check, we'll continue to do this, and yes, we'll continue. Why do you keep putting, you have suffered people enough, they have spent about how many millions addressing or treating themselves, right? The businesses the wife was doing, what has happened now? There have been people that have been crippled because of the conduct of these officers. Have they been disciplined? At least that would be a little solace to these victims. But no, we only defend. And because you were talking too much, right?
So now, from your own perspective, how would you say the PRO should have navigated this scenario? So perhaps because you mentioned earlier that they widened the gap between the police and the people. So for them to bridge this gap now, because that should be one of their functions, to make this bridge between the police and the people, so there'd be a point of understanding. So what should they have done, or what should they start doing to make sure that that perfect bridge is formed?
The first thing, I'll start with the appointment. For officers or police personnel to be appointed as the PRO, first, those in charge of appointment should take into cognizance their knowledge of customer service, right? And how well they relate with people. Because as a public relations officer, you are relating with people from all walks of life, all people from different tribes, different backgrounds. We are attending to everybody. And the way and manner you say certain things go a long way in actually helping them work with you or work against you. I believe that has not been considered in appointment over time. So you appoint people that could or cannot communicate freely with people. So they have these limitations of communications or in the manner or ways through which they can also communicate. So it shouldn't just be, okay, because I know this person was a good officer. Being a good officer doesn't mean you can be a good public relations officer. And after appointment, they should be trained on what is required of them, because many of them work based on their perception of life or who they have been over time, not because they have the skill to be able to relate better with people. And I have identified this over time. That is why in our works, or part of the work we do, particularly last year in our Youth and Policing Summit, we work with the different PROs in the 6 geopolitical zones. So the programs we organize with youth and policing summit to bring the youth together, the different leadership, be it universities, be it faith-based organizations, be it those in the society, be it CSOs, be it media, and then we brought the PROs, because the police, it's the PROs that speaks for them. We brought them together with other officers. Come together and talk. What are your differences? What are the issues? If you don't relate with somebody who don't know the issue the person has with you, and the person also vice versa won't also know the grudge you are holding against them. So there always have to be this meeting point where you meet and then talk and have this conversation. At the end of the day, you find a level ground. Okay, this is an aspect I don't like about this. Maybe when you see us on the road, you already have this hatred for us, so the way you respond to us, we don't like it, and that is why we respond also with aggression and all that. We have always been the son. At that level, we try to come together. But most times, even when you invite them for programs, most times they don't go there. So it's more like, or when they come for programs, they are being invited, particularly by CSOs, they feel like they are doing you a favor. Unknown to them that you are only trying to bring them closer to the people. Because most times they complain that some CSOs are working, they are preventing them from doing their work. When CSOs are maybe pushing them to respect the rights of these persons, because even according to the law, every suspect is innocent until proven guilty. So why can't you simply respect that? Instead of arresting somebody and you start beating the person who permitted you, who have given you that right. So, and then there have also been trainings, just like I spoke earlier about the issue of training. The first one is meeting point. You can do a needs assessment, have a focus group discussions with people that work with the society, or people, the youth leaders in the community, or the chiefs meet. So we now even trying for that to even try to help, because most times they stay in their places and they don't want to come out. So now we are even planning on working on having maybe something like having a community meetings or a town hall meetings at the level of communities. So the DPOs or the stations in those communities will have a meeting together. The youth leaders from wherever in that very community, or the leadership, you come together, have a meeting, maybe monthly. The police have been doing this, the police have been doing that. Okay, this is what we have addressed. This is the gaps at that level can be, the police cannot know about every crime that happen in every community. But if they are working in good terms and well with the community will also vouch for them and also work to even safeguard them.
And that when we are talking about one of the things that usually give rise to where rights of lots of people are abused, that is protest, which when you started, you mentioned the one that happened in Nasarawa State, and then it was as if they were trying to shut down the fundamental rights to hold protest. But let us look at it this way. Do you feel like perhaps some individuals, even now a little bit away from protest, because when you mentioned that the PROs are often being defensive when it comes to when complaints are being pushed to them about how police officers are working and how they respond, can we say that perhaps the reason the police might not be so welcoming of protests, people showing their grievances, is because it tends to go riot? Because the word that they usually use for it, the protest was hijacked by hoodlums. The role that played, do you feel like perhaps it might be one of the steps the police is using as a precaution that, okay, let us do things calmly, there's no need for you to raise alarm, and maybe settle it amicably, so we do not have uproar?
I wish that people have, a lot of persons that have gone to the police to settle things amicably were also actually available here to tell us how far it went. The issue primarily that we have is when you have, as an officer, you lack the knowledge of your constitution, what should be the Bible of the country. If you don't know it, then you work based on what you think. Before becoming a police officer, Nigeria has a law that guides this. You are not supposed to work based on your perception, you work based on the laws guiding the country. And if the Nigerian Constitution, I think about section 30 to 33 to 35, talks about this rights of citizens. You have to know, because you are policing the citizens, you are working with the citizens. If you don't know their rights, then what are you protecting? That's the first thing. So you need to know their rights to be able to know also their limits of their rights. In cases of emergencies, those rights are limited. I think section 45, the rights of the citizens are limited. But in situations where these rights of these people are violated, you are aware. You failed to do anything. You watched. They came and complained, petitioned, and do all this. You have not done anything about it, and they want to protest. And then you are bringing the idea of riot. It's a mindset or a creation of policing agencies and people in government to actually discredit protest. During NSAS period, particularly in Abuja, police vans were carrying thugs to go and burn things, to go and victimize citizens, right? This is an abnormal situation because this was actually videoed and captured. No one was disciplined. So it showed that it's not hoodlums infiltrating protest. Security agencies and those in government are the ones discredited because they are the ones failing to do the right thing. So instead of accepting their failures and then trying to work and address these concerns that are being raised, they instead try to discredit and find the way that they'll claim something wrong happened. Even in Lagos here, when the protest started in 2020, people were at Lekki. Other persons went and started fighting or spoiling things at Orele. That very day, it so happened that I went to see the PRO of Lagos State. So on reaching there, he got a call from him that he got an emergency and he has gone to Orele. Go to Orele and address the concerns. The protesters were not there. Those persons were thugs, were riots, were the ones attacking the police, 1 or 2 police officers there. Go and address that concern as it's supposed to be addressed, with the type of force also as required there. You didn't. You went to where people were singing national anthem, and then you went and shot persons, and even at the panel of inquiry, where the evidences were being brought, to you, the governor himself went to the hospital and paid visit to people with the gunshot victims' wounds. The governor himself went there and saw it himself, and still we came back to deny that these things didn't happen. So people at the protest ground were not going about scattering things. People at Lekki were in one place, right? They didn't go about doing anything. So they didn't go about scattering anything. It was not riot. They were there. So that is just like trying to prevent yourself from working. If you know about the Constitution, you know that people have freedom of expression. And everybody knows riot is not allowed, right? So if somebody wants to protest, that is why most times when people are going on protest, they have to inform the police. Police most time have tried to put it to people that you have to take permission from us.
Yes.
No. Police, you lack every idea and every powers to give permission for people to protest. Citizens only inform you so that you guide them. If at any time such a protest is turning to riot or whatever, you quench it at that point. If other persons are trying to infiltrate, because if you are with the people protesting and other people want to come and infiltrate them, you already know who is coming, you address them, you address the situation. So, but when you decide you don't want to do your work, you just want to criminalize everything, then you keep saying it will turn riot, so people, you are not permitted. Lagos State, last year, I think last year twice or thereabouts, there was a press release in Lagos State that the Commissioner of Police have banned protest. Such persons should even be sacked immediately. When you are going against the Constitution, you don't have such powers.
So, just to be on the safer side, would you say whenever protest is supposed to happen, the due process to follow is to let the police in that community know that this is a step we are going to take, so it does not turn to, oh, they hijacked the protest, or it were hoodlums creating a scene?
It's really important that you inform them, let them be aware that you are doing something like this. And the standard practice, the police is also supposed to be there to protect you, citizens, because it's their work. They are supposed to protect you while you protest. And if at any time any group of persons want to infiltrate that protest, they will arrest such persons and then the proper thing is being done. So it's good, but it shouldn't make the police feel like these persons are coming to take permission from you. No, they don't need your permission. If you feel there can be issues around the same place, the same vicinity, you can advise them that, oh, you want to do this protest, but on this social time, maybe the social something is happening, and if this happens, it may also affect maybe the roadblocks maybe too much or thereabouts, and so maybe shift it a day or do it a day before, and certain advices that can work. But you cannot come out categorically and say, I have banned. The Constitution never said you have such powers. So even the president cannot come and ban protest. You don't have, only in a state of emergency, where there's an emergency, yes, the federal government or the president can make such proclamations, or even the state governor can say such things. But when there's no, in a state of emergency, it's a normal situation, everything is going fine, you don't have such powers. So, and when this thing keeps happening, I feel the Police Service Commission should call such commissioners of police to order whenever they come out saying such things, because it's against the Nigerian Constitution. And as a law enforcement officer going against the law that it should be enforcing, it should be disciplined.
Yes, it did. And really, I have to thank you for being on the program, because unfortunately, we've run out of time. It happens like that on the show. So thank you so much for gracing us on Firecrackers at this week. And I hope that someone there would have been able to gather much information and would help them going forward with registering their complaints with police or when they want to have a protest.
Thank you so much.